Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sheila Boyington with Learning Blade. It's our pleasure this afternoon to join you. Obviously, we are all working at home now, and a lot of things have changed over the course of the past really few weeks. This afternoon, we wanted to share a little bit of information about Learning Blade in general, but really more specifically, hopefully some resources that can be valuable to you as educators and or parents, as well as sharing some information about resources that you can share with parents. We're going to tell you a little bit about Learning Blade first, and then I'm going to be turning it over to our curriculum director, Damon Crumley, to actually walk you through some of the great parent resources that we have. First, before we get started, a couple of little housekeeping things. If you are seeing me on your computer above me, in case you are not seeing me only, which I want you to do, right? There's a little place where you can click and says you can see the person who's talking. And so it should be just above my picture on your screen. Additionally, if you do have any comments, you can use the chat box to send us any questions. We have too many people online today to be able to have everyone unmuted. We'd also appreciate if you would mute your phones. So let's just talk a little bit about what Learning Blade is. Learning Blade is an interactive STEM toolbox. It's really an interdisciplinary approach to STEM. What we've tried to do is create some resources that can be utilized by schools and really for students to help them increase their knowledge of what great STEM careers are, and really for you as educators, making sure they understand that these, even though they're STEM careers, they're aligned to your actual standards, academic standards. Our central component of Learning Blade is our interactive lessons. 400 different kinds of lessons that I'll talk about a little bit, really showing a wide range of careers and technologies. Beyond the interactive online lessons, we do offer some hands-on projects that allow teachers and now parents to work with their students with hands-on types of activities and presentation skills, writing skills, and other things. We also offer design thinking lessons. If we spend a lot more time in this mode, maybe those will come in handy, where we use the 5-step thinking process to help kids understand how to logically solve problems. We do offer some 3D printing activities for those schools that have 3D printers. A lot of times they don't know what to do with them. And we do have some career videos to show kids firsthand what it looks like to be in a specific career, specifically in STEM. I'm assuming everybody on this call today knows that STEM, when we talk about STEM, we're talking about science, technology, engineering, and math. And today our central conversation is going to be around our parent resources. Back when ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, was put into place, there was sort of a need for making sure that parents were engaged in education of their children. And so we created these simple lessons that we're going to walk you through a couple of those today so you can learn how parents can engage with their students, particularly while they're in this remote learning time. We do also offer some coding exercises and some opportunities for building some paper figures. Now, let me back up and talk a little bit about our mission sort of structure that we employ in Learning Blade. In order to really help share with kids what are some of the great STEM careers that are out there, we developed 12 missions, which really center around a storyline to get kids interested in STEM careers. The number one reason that kids do not pursue these great, high-demand, wonderful careers is the fact that they don't know about them. You know, and it's so important, particularly for girls and really, quite frankly, for millennials and others, to make sure that they can see that actually being in these careers helps society. That's something that's very important to kids. And so they need to understand that. So we have 12 different career sort of clusters here that we focus on. And you can look at biomedical, we can look at construction, we can look at IT, or of course advanced manufacturing, energy, but you can see this is a very robust list of the different types of careers that we cover, and each of them are centered around a specific storyline. Now, each of our missions are actually organized by what we call tools and teammates. Tools are STEM technologies in the orange, and teammates are STEM careers. Again, you can't really be what you can't see. And so we wanted to give kids the opportunity to really understand a little bit more about what some of these great STEM careers actually might do from a day-to-day basis, as well as also understanding some of the technologies that are involved. Kids have to earn the tool or the teammate by completing these mini academic lessons. But we wanted everybody on board. So we didn't just make science and math lessons, we added English and social studies because we really need the help of all educators to understand the interdisciplinary nature of all educational paths. Whether you be in STEM or a non-STEM field, you really need to be exposed to these. And so what we did is create lessons that actually align to all 50 state standards and allow you to be able to see what you are actually learning about and hopefully get engaged in it. And that is the way we have designed Learning Blade. Now, again, during this really very strange time, we really want to make sure that we communicate. We are praying for everyone, particularly our frontline doctors and healthcare workers and others who are really involved in this. But at the same token, we need to make sure that we are able to provide online materials for students and that they should not forget STEM. And so that has really been an interesting time for us this last few weeks, talking to many educators all over the country who have told us that Learning Blade is really helping them to reach their students while they're at home. In Baldwin County in Alabama or Hamilton County, Tennessee, which is actually where I am calling in from, and even in Arkansas, where we have tremendous usage all across these states. We're seeing teachers talk to us about the fact that Learning Blade can help reinforce standards. It can be worked very easily from home, and even how they're assigning that. I'll talk a little bit later about our next week's webinar, where we'll actually talk to some of these teachers about the way they are actually using Learning Blade. So today, as I mentioned, we wanted to focus on a specific aspect of Learning Blade. During this time, we have decided to make these Learning Blade lessons, our parent lessons, available to the public at absolutely no charge. Anyone on this call, whether you have a Learning Blade license or not, can go to learningblade.com/remote, and you will be able to download our 12 lessons for use at home. As you'll see these lessons, we have table talk, which is the ability to sort of start some questions with parents and children as they have a topic that they can discuss, some research opportunities, as well as some simple home experiments that Damon is actually going to share with you here in a minute. Next, I wanted to let you know that we currently have 5 states that actually have fully funded access to Learning Blade. Those are Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, and I'm happy to announce, you are the first people to hear, that South Carolina also has just acquired Learning Blade for statewide use. Anybody in any of these states can go to this particular website that's listed up here for each of these states to request your free license. You will then receive that and additionally some communication. We're also available to do some webinars for you on demand if you will send an email to info@learningblade.com if you're interested in that. And if you do not have access to our full Learning Blade system, you can certainly request more information at our learningblade.com/contact or email us directly at info@learningblade.com. Our teachers do have to request these accounts that cannot be sent to parents. So you do have to use your school email if you are requesting a license in these 5 states. I also want to remind you that all these resources we're going to talk about today are available at learningblade.com/remote. Now, at this time, I would like to introduce to you Damon Crumley, who is our curriculum director, and Damon is going to share a little bit of information about our STEM for Parents exercises. Damon.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Yes, so I'll take you through a couple of our STEM for Parents at-home exercises. The first one that we'll be going through will be the flu outbreak exercises. That one's actually very topical right now, and so we'll go through that very quickly. Each STEM for Parents exercises is designed to be done in 3 parts with very minimal educator supervision. A lot of these can be student led, and so they're very easy to apply in that respect. So the first part would be a table talk. In this case, we're talking about hand washing, and there's discussion questions. You'll see those in the PDFs that Sheila talked about that you can download for free. And it basically just gives you some question prompts that you can ask your students about that kind of gets them thinking about the importance of washing hands. And then in the next part will be the dig deeper, which is research. And then in the final part will be the home lab. And that's what I'll actually demonstrate here for you. So let's talk about the table talk first, real quickly. In this next slide here, we have some starter questions. Basically, you would ask a few things about what have you recently heard about the spread of diseases, or one of the best ways to reduce your chances of getting sick is to wash your hands. And so you would ask, well, why is that important? And then we give you some hints to kind of prompt any students who maybe aren't coming out, real quickly with answers. You can ask them a few things to think about. What have they touched about? What have they touched, what items, and what surfaces and objects could be carrying these germs and other ways that diseases spread. So that's basically that first part there is on how to prompt a discussion. So now we'll look at the second part in our dig deeper section. So in that section, we basically give you some resources, and the students can go online and work through their own research and talk about or find out on their own more information. And these can be administered very simply, where you would basically say, okay, go through, pick one of these resources, spend about 30 minutes, and then come back and tell me 3 things that you didn't know about that subject. And so those are very easy to apply. You could basically just let the students basically be self-led on that. So our next one is our home lab. Now this one is really fun because this is our hands-on ones. Now, in the flu outbreak, we actually have 2 of these. One is an online lesson, and this first one here is where you would go to the CDC website. They have a really cool game called Solve the Outbreak, where you basically play the role of an investigator who is going around the world and checking out possible disease outbreaks. It's very nice. It's actually more challenging probably for your older students. This is a really good one so that they go through and they learn about some of the clues that help investigators understand what possible health problems might be going on in a part of the world. So you would click on that link and they could go through and do that. So we also have another home lab for the flu outbreak. And in that one, we're going to be doing a demonstration of the importance of hand washing and soap and how that works to keep your hands clean. You can see our materials list here, and then we have some discussion questions. So I'm actually going to take control of the screen here, and you're going to see me go ahead and do this lab live for you here. Oh, let's see. I need to click the accept that as I take control of that one. There we go. You can see the bowl there, and I think I'm going to take control of this other one as well. Yes, there we go. Okay, so we look good. So as you can see, this is a very simple experiment. You might have seen this online. A lot of people are doing this one today because it is so topical. You basically have a bowl of a little bit of water in there. I'll shake it around. You can kind of see it in there. You're going to have some pepper. I've got some here in this dish. You're going to need a paper towel and some dish soap. So the way this experiment works is, first, you will start out by lightly sprinkling a layer of pepper across the surface of the water, and you can see that on the video there. And you don't have to really cover it too much. It's actually more dramatic if you put down a light layer like what I'm doing. So we'll put that aside, clean off my hands on the paper towel. And then what you'll do is you'll have the students lightly touch their finger into the bowl. And so I'll do that as well, and then have them inspect their finger, and then you would ask them, okay, so what does that part of the experiment tell you about touching something that has germs or viruses or other things like that? and they would probably respond about, as you would expect, that it got their finger dirty. So now what we're going to do is we're going to illustrate what soap does. And so you don't need a lot of soap for this. In fact, if you just have the student rub their finger around the nozzle, they'll probably pick up enough soap, just like I've done there, and then have them lightly touch the water, and you can see what happens. It breaks the surface tension of the water and shoves all of the pepper to the outer edges of the bowl. And so now you would ask them, have discussion, and say, okay, what does that tell you about the importance of soap and the importance of keeping your hand clean? And so they would probably respond about how soap provides that barrier, and it draws the contaminants away from your skin and makes it easier for you to stay healthy. So that's that experiment right there, that home lab, very simple and easy to do. So now let's talk about another STEM for parents. In this one, we're going to be talking about renewable energy sources. So I think we're going to put the presentation back up on your screens so you can see that information here. Yes, we're doing that. And meanwhile, I'm going to clear off my space and get my other materials here. Good, good, good. All right, so for our second STEM for Parents at Home, we're going to be talking about energy sources. In this one, we've in the corresponding Learning Blade lessons, your students will have been learning about renewable energy and new energy sources for communities. So this STEM for Parents works in conjunction with that. The very first table talk is going to talk about designing buildings, energy efficiency. The Dig Deeper is a research, just like it was in the other STEM for Parents exercises. And then the home lab is building a windsock. So let's continue on and talk about the table talk. So the way you would probably administer this one is, again, you've got some starter questions. Here we're asking about, if you were designing a building, what sort of energy saving measures would you want to incorporate? How could you save energy in your own home? And so you would go through those questions and hopefully get your students to respond a little bit and come up with some ideas or some thought on what goes into energy efficiency in a home or in a building. And we also give you some helpful hints, things to consider, building materials, smart power technology, etc. So that's how you would administer the table talk. In the Dig Deeper lesson on the next slide, in this one, we would talk about the student research that they would do. And again, like the other one, we've given you a list of a few resources, and this could be administered as simply as just saying to your student, hey, go through, pick one of these, and then come back in 20, 30 minutes and tell me, what are 3 things you learned about either renewable energy or clean power or, something on that nature. Tell me something that you didn't know before. And so your students would go do that research and then come back and tell you what they learned. So now on our next one, we have another home lab, and in this one, we're going to be building a windsock. So the idea behind this lab is that if you were doing renewable energy, in this case wind energy, you would want to know if your site were a good site for wind energy. And so one of the ways you could measure that is with this windsock. So you would have your students do this windsock, put it out in their backyard or out on the side of the house, and then they could go monitor it and see if maybe their site is a good site for wind energy. So I'm going to take control again and show you exactly how to do this.
Okay, so now we're going to do our home lab where we're going to build a windsock. And the idea behind this is when you're talking about renewable energy sources, in particular wind energy, you can't just build a wind turbine anywhere. So one of the ways that you can tell if it's a good wind site or a bad wind site is with a windsock. And so that's what you'll have your students do in this exercise today. So what you're going to need is you're going to need paper or construction paper. You're going to need a plastic bag from a shopping bag, scissors, string, either glue, tape, or staples, and a hole punch. So once we've got that, we start off, I'll move some of this out of the way. We're going to take our construction paper, we're going to do it long ways, and we're going to fold it into thirds here. And once we do that, we're going to tape it in place. Alright, so I've got that. Take a couple of pieces of tape. Put one there. Put one in the middle and one at the end. All right, I'm going to set that aside. Now, we're going to take our plastic bag here, and we really only want to use about half of this bag. So the first thing we're going to do is cut off the handles, the handle end. And I'm just going to chop those off real quick. And now we've got our bag here. Like I said, we're only going to use about half of this. So I'm going to now take my scissors, cut the bag in half. Actually, I'll just cut a big square out of it, or a rectangle, actually. It's probably not a perfect square. Over here, oops, get my ends done better there. That, I have that, cut that off. This part I do not need, this is what I needed. All right, so I've got roughly a rectangular shape, and it's about the same size, because what's going to happen is I'm going to cut a bunch of slits in this part of the plastic, and then I'm going to tape this onto this. So let's do the slits. And now I'll take my scissors, and I don't want to go all the way. I want to stop about an inch or two from the end. You see this goes pretty quickly. Each one of these streamers is going to be about an inch wide. This plastic is very easy to cut, so your students shouldn't have any problems with that. You could even use safety scissors because this plastic is very easy to cut. So here I am. I've almost got all of my streamers. This one I'm going to go ahead and divide in the middle, like that. Okay, so now you can see I've got my plastic here. This part's all solid, these are all streamers. So now I'll turn it back this way, because again, this is now going to get taped onto that. So I grab my tape over here and tape the plastic to the construction paper that I've already folded. Put a couple of pieces of tape on that to hold it in place. All right, and actually it's a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off this last streamer there. Don't need that. So now you can see how this is working. That's in place. So now I'm going to take this and roll it up into a hoop, like that. And then I will tape this together, hold it in place, put a piece of tape there, and then put another piece of tape at the back. All right. So now you can see I've got the beginnings of a windsock here. Now I'm going to need some holes so that I can attach my strings. My pieces of string are about 1 foot long. I've got 3 of those. That'll be enough. I'm going to take my hole punch, and I want to punch holes, 3 holes about equidistance. There's a little vocabulary word for your students. You can ask them what equidistance means when you give them those instructions. And you punch out your holes. So now I've got my 3 holes that are roughly equidistant around the circle. And then I'm going to take my string, pass it through these holes, and make a simple knot to tie it in place. So I'll do that, and I'll actually double knot it because I don't want it to come loose. That's pretty good. Do this again on the other 2 holes. Single knot it there, and then double knot it. And that should hold it. You could also use fishing line. I had some string handy, so that's what I used. Yarn would also work for this step as well. My single knot, and then I'll finish up with my double knot. Okay, so now once you've got your string on there, what you'll do is you'll grab all 3 pieces of string and you'll suspend the windsock, And what you're trying to do is make it so that each piece of string is about the same length. And then you're going to put a knot in all 3 of them. Bind them all 3 together like that. That looks pretty good. Oh, I don't think I made that opening big enough to put all 3 through. There we go. And I'll draw all 3 through. Tighten that knot up. And so now I've got a windsock there. And what I would do is I could put another longer piece of string, or I could attach this to a nail or something like that, to a post or something out there. Or like I said, I could attach a much longer piece of string, and that way I could hang it off of something out in my backyard. And so again, the idea of this is when you put this up outside, the wind's going to come through, it's going to blow the windsock, and this will give you an idea of how much wind you have at your site. Maybe it's at your school or at your home, and this is one of the ways that you could go out and observe it periodically, and you could see, do we have constant wind, do we have gusty winds, and that would give you an indication of whether or not your site is a suitable site for renewable wind energy. So that's been our STEM for Parents home lab, building a windsock. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Damon. I do believe we had a little bit of a technical difficulty there in the video, going a little slower than Damon was showing you, so we'll try to definitely videotape that and post it on our website. So just to wrap up a little bit, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Again, all of these, there are 12 different of these parent lessons that have these components that Damon talked about. The table talk, where it's just a simple topic. You don't have to have any internet access. The second piece is our research questions. Again, if some people don't have internet access at home, a lot of them do have phones, so they can use that also to go to the website. So you might want to remind parents to do that. And third are our very simple, what we call kitchen sink activities, as Damon showed you, just like pepper and bowl and water, or a grocery bag, a piece of paper, a few other things. Most of these are things that people already have in their home, so we hope that you can use those for doing this. If you do want information about Learning Blade and you are in one of our 5 states and you don't have your account, you can email us at info@learningblade.com. If you have any other technical issues that you wanted to share with us, you can email us at support@learningblade.com. Let me also tell you about next week's webinar, where we're really fortunate to have 3 teachers that will be joining us on Thursday, April 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I do also want to remind you that we are recording all of our webinars and trying to make them just 30 minutes to make sure that you guys can get some valuable information that you can use. And you can go to learningblade.com/webinars to either register for our upcoming webinar or also see some of the webinars that we have done in the past. We're looking forward to having this be a weekly series. We very much welcome your feedback. If you want to share any information about what we're doing, we'd be happy to share that with you as well. Yes, definitely. Okay, someone is asking for us to recap STEM for Parents. We definitely are offering these lessons for free at learningblade.com/remote. They are 12 lessons that follow along sort of the topics of each of our missions. So we'll make sure we do that. And we really appreciate everybody joining us today. Thank you to Damon for doing the experiments, and we hope that everybody stays safe and well. And hopefully you're able to join us next week again for our Learning Blade webinar series. Thank you so much.